Okay folks, here's a quick video I've made to illustrate one of the most common and unnoticed traveling violations in Ultimate. I'm sure I'll probably be hated on for being nitpicky here, but if you do that, you'll really miss the whole point. The example I'm highlighting here is just one of many such nuances in the rules that benefit the offense, and it seems that no one has really noticed them before. The rules and their interpretations are filled with idiosyncrasies such as this one, so please bear with me and have an open mind, and suspend your disbelief long enough to assume that I might actually have a valid point here. This is a clip of a play I believe Trent Dillon made in a recent sockeye revolver matchup in this summer's US Open. This category of traveling is very common, so I don't mean to pick on Trent, but he did give us a very good example here, and it's a play that's taken at 3 different camera angles. So it really helps us get an idea of what's happening, and once you see this, you'll notice just how prevalent this particular violation is when you watch games in the future. In this clip, you'll notice Trent catching a hook put up by Reed Koss, and when Trent catches the disc, he comes to a stop and is balanced in 5 steps. However, because his 5th step is on his right foot, and because he's right-handed, he automatically takes an extra step and uses his left foot as his pivot foot. As soon as the right foot, which technically should be his pivot foot here, comes off the ground, he's committed a traveling violation. Here, check it out. Like I said, hopefully after you watch this video, you'll never look at this type of play the same again. Nowhere in the rules does it stipulate that a thrower is entitled to use one foot or another as a pivot foot. So as you watch Trent catch the disc here, he lands, he takes 2 steps, hops, taking 2 more steps, and on his 5th step he's come to a stop. We'll show this a few times from a few different angles and slow it down and even stop it, and you can see he clearly plants his right foot as his pivot foot. In other words, by his 5th ground contact, he has come to a stop and is balanced. The 6th step that he takes here is purely gratuitous. Now let's watch this again from another angle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His right foot is down. And again, here from the back angle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's clearly stopped here with his right foot down. His right foot now is his pivot foot. This time let's watch in slow motion. It's even easier to see this, and it's much more obvious what's happening. Now let's watch again in full speed, but this time we'll stop the video on the 5th step. There's really no room for debate here about whether or not he's stopped or balanced on his right foot. He clearly is. The only argument can be whether or not the rules entitle a thrower to choose a pivot foot after he's come to a stop. They don't. They never have. And if you want this to be legal, you're going to have to rewrite the rules to say that you can use one foot or another after you've come to a stop to plant as a pivot foot, and that would be ridiculous. This is just one of dozens of examples of why the rules need to be overhauled. This is a blatant traveling violation and it happens all the time. The play-by-play announcers say nothing, the refs in the MLU, AUDL say nothing, and the observers in USAU never call this, but this is traveling, plain and simple. This is just one of dozens of examples of why the rules need to be overhauled. The simple fact is that the original rules for Ultimate were never really thought through very well. They were never vetted against their original intentions to see whether or not the assumptions the rules were based on were valid. And the rules certainly have never been adjusted significantly to account for the fact that the players of today are much more skilled and athletic than they were 40 years ago. I mean, basically, the rules are pretty much the same that they were in the early 70s. The professional leagues, the AUDL and the MLU, have and still have a golden opportunity to revamp the rules and basically start over from scratch. But all they did was take the UPA's ill-conceived version of Ultimate, sprinkle on a few referees, and they called it professional. The game does need to be overhauled, and while the USAU doesn't have the wherewithal to do that, it is something that an independent rules body can do. I've been waiting 35 years for the game to be professionalized so the game could be fixed, but so far the 2 professional leagues have completely dropped the proverbial flat ball on this. If you like, please take a moment to read my series of Huffington Post articles on Ultimate, linked below, that include my interview with Irv Kalv, who is credited with having formalized the rules of the game in the early 70s. If you haven't already read these articles, you'll be shocked at some of his answers to my questions about why certain rules are the way they are. Thanks for listening.